Hi, I'm Mike Haduck, and I've been getting a lot of requests on how do I point up or patch up the masonry work on an old barn. So I'm going to show you how I do it and I approach it. I'm going to talk about the way they were built. So here we go. So let's look at this old barn. This was already done a couple years back, and we're going to walk around the end of it. And this is all granite. This is all granite stone right here. So granite is a real hard stone, so you don't have to worry about what you're really using when you're using granite. Now this part of it is undone, as you can see. That's the part we're going to patch up. And we get in on the inside of the barn, and just like the old castles and everything, you can see where they used to whitewash it. And this is the lime mortar they got in here, which falls apart. I'm going to explain that. See it over here? Look at it. See, lime mortar is just lime and sand. So you get it, and you can crush it up. It's no good where I live, northeastern Pennsylvania. I'm going to talk about that a little more. I'm going to show you how we patch this old barn up. Now let's talk about the lime a little more. You can see in here where they used everything back in the day. This is built in 1888. And it's all different stuff. They use sand, they got it anywhere. Bank run, anywhere they can get it. As long as it didn't have salt in it, you're good. And they added lime to it, and it falls apart. It doesn't hold up lime. You could crush it up and re-wet it again. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Now let me show you what I'm going to use on this barn. Now here's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use 2 of these. Now this is like what they call concrete sand. You can see the little pieces of stone inside it. You could use regular masonry sand, but this is basically what the old timers used. Now you go over to England or Wales or Scotland, they would call that sharp sand. So we're going to do 2 of those, and I'm going to put 1 of S mortar in. So what I'm using is masonry cement type S, and basically what it is lime or mortar that contains Portland. It's a new kind of thing, but that's the way they do it. And then we're just going to mix it up dry. A lot of people won't agree with me with this mixture, but I've been doing this for 50 years, and I'm the guy who has to go around fixing everybody who says different. Then we add our water in, and we mix it up. So you can add more if it's too soupy. 2 to 1 is the mix. That's about what we want, something like that. So because this is close to the camera, we're going to do this spot. You see that rock right there? That's a shim. When they were putting these stones on, they shimmed it so that rock could stay up until the mortar dried. Here's another one they shimmed up. So that's the way they did that. Now the first thing I want to do, look, there's a piece of metal in there, we don't care. So we'll get maybe that metal out of there. This is the only hammer I got. So there, we got that metal out of there. So now, see, this is weak. And you stick your finger in there. If it's loose, get it out. If you want to get the hose, get the hose. See, this is even a little loose, but that's okay. See that shim in there like that? So there's 2 ways to do it. You can either get some water and a paintbrush and stick it in there and wet it like that. You can do it that way. Sometimes that makes a mess, or we can get a little sprayer and just spray it in there. The idea is to make it wet. Regular water, you wet it up. That way I know it's going to stick. Then we get our trowel and shove it in. Now this is S mortar, which means it has Portland in it. The old days, they didn't have Portland. They didn't start using Portland until about the 1900s. Now you could do it that way and shove it in. Get yourself a little tool, or in the real world, if you want to, you can take your glove and shove it in with your hand. Just wear your rubber glove. Sometimes the rubber glove is better. Now you know, and I know, if you're watching my videos, I grew up in this business. 1960s, I was out carrying block with my brother, or my cousin, and he'll attest to it, like slaves. Maybe it's a little over exaggeration, but it did us good. Because now, because of what I learned, I could pass this stuff on to you. Thing is, it's damp in there, and we want to get it in. So if the cement is too soft, it's going to move around, and if the cement is too hard, it's going to be falling off. We're not going to worry about that. See, I keep using my hands because I want to show you a lot of different ways to do things. Somebody's telling you you have to do it this way, then you got to worry. If someone tells you there's a lot of different ways to do things, like being a car mechanic, you see a lot of guys put in stuff a lot of different ways. See, that's good. Now, sometimes you're going to hear these guys who do historic buildings, you can't use nothing but lime. Well, every time I go around, the only thing I do is I got to go fixing people's work who use lime. Now, in certain instances, when I did that video on the Conway Castle, they used lime. But those guys were restoring it the way they did it in the old days. See, a little water. That's good. I'm going to shove it in there. And you could keep building on it. If you want your joints out farther, you build it out a little more. See that? If you want your joints on the inside, then you build it out that way. I'm going to show you how to do this. It's not no big deal. See, and it's going to dry a little quicker. Now with this concrete sand or sharp sand, it don't really matter. Well, you just go around with your finger like that, and that gets the big stuff. You see that? Kind of smooth it out. You know, the sharp sand's a little bit tougher than the basic masonry sand. You could use play sand, but you got to use. There it is. See, it's looking better already. Now, just for the fun of it, a lot of times you just get a little paintbrush, you go around, and you brush it, just like that. That's one way to do it. See that? No big deal. Ain't no big deal. Then we get a sponge. You see the water in the sponge? We don't want the water in the sponge. We gotta wring it out, and we want to go over the sides. That's going to clean that all up real nice and purty like. See that? When you're using masonry sand, you get a tighter seal, but this what do you call it, sand? Sharp sand, as they call it. Sometimes they mix it. You go over to that Conway Castle video and you watch that, and they'll mix the sharp sand with the masonry sand. You get a little bit of both effects. So that's it. When you clean it with a sponge, you want to make sure to get it all out, and just do that with it. See it? Clean it up. Now you could come back, you know, a half hour later and look at it again and patch it up again. That's the best way when I'm patching up an old barn or something to do it. So you can see the patch here, and this is what it's all going to look like when it's done. And we got to go up and do the rest of this. So in that demonstration, you'd see me use the concrete sand. But if you just wanted to patch little holes up like this, then you would use the masonry sand. Now this is the concrete sand. It's got little rocks in it. That's the masonry sand. It's real fine. So for finer joints or smaller joints, I would use this sand. So let's just say we wanted to fix little cracks like that. We wouldn't use the thick concrete sand. What we use is the masonry sand because it's a lot finer. See, there's no little rocks in it. And we just go like this with it. Ain't no big deal. Just go with your hands if you want. Get that all in there. That's how you'd fix those little cracks. Everybody's trying to Grind the stuff out, it's like plumbing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. See? That's it. Get your sponge. Make sure the water's all out. Go around. Just like that. And that's it. See that? That joint's good. Now here's an old building about 130 some years old. It was built with mine rock from around the mines. You can see this old lime mortar. Now lime mortar is okay. It's kind of stretchy and movable, but it won't last in northeastern Pennsylvania. You can see where the weather wasn't hitting it. Down here it hits it, it knocks it all out. That's why I always add a little Portland. Now let's talk about the way they built these old buildings. They would just, like this, they put one here, they come and they put one going across this way, this one would hold up this way. Everything was interlocked. There's no footers, there's no rebar, there's no concrete trucks, there's no wall ties. That's why these barns last hundreds of years. So let's look. We got one going this way, one here, one over here, one in the middle, one going over the top, and everything interlocks. It's not a big deal. But like I said, this is the old school way of doing things. That's why they lasted hundreds of years. Now let's look at the new school way of doing things. What they do is they lay their block, and then they put their stone against the block, however they do it. Then they put these wall ties to hold it on, and then the next stone will go over the top of that, all the way up the block or whatever. The truth is, all these things rot away. You see my other videos. This is like a 50-year job, 35 to 50 years. That job over there is good for about another 100 and some. So that's it. That's the way I patch up an old barn. You look at my other videos. I have one out that's called Early American Stonework, where I actually show how that's done. And then I have retaining wall videos, and I have my Conway Castle videos. A lot of different videos to show you the way that stonework was done. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Haduck. Until another video.